As Germany approaches its federal election, Alice Weidel's rise has sent shockwaves through the political landscape. The 46-year-old economist and co-leader of the Alternative for Deutschland has transformed the far-right party into a formidable force, with polls placing AfD at 20%, within striking distance of second place. A Weidel-led government would be unprecedented. She has campaigned on strict anti-immigration policies, economic nationalism, and an EU exit strategy. Her manifesto calls for migration change, closing borders, mass deportations, and remigration of those deemed unassimilated.
And this party has gained more and more support over time, interestingly to the same extent that it has become radicalized. And the main driving force behind this success is, on the one hand, its anti-migration policy, which is very popular in Germany, even in the center of the political spectrum. Then there is their fight against the ecological transformation and their positioning in the Russia war.
Beyond immigration, Weidel wants to reinstate the Deutschmark, curb military aid to Ukraine, and roll back Germany's climate commitments. Her rhetoric resonates with disillusioned voters, particularly in eastern Germany, where AfD commands over 30% support.
Ending illegal migration and lawlessness, deporting criminals and those who have entered the country illegally, restoring security in public spaces, quite simply, enforcing law and order.
If AfD secures a top position, protests are expected. Critics warn of economic turmoil and a fractured EU if Weidel gains power. Yet her challenge remains the firewall. Germany's mainstream parties have long refused to govern with AfD. CDU leader Friedrich Merz's recent move to accept AfD support on an immigration motion suggests shifting boundaries. Some analysts argue a coalition, while unlikely, is no longer impossible. The bigger question, could AfD's rise normalize its radical policies?
Cut social benefits for people who are not entitled to stay and carry out large-scale repatriations. And I have to tell you quite honestly, if we need to call it remigration, then it's called remigration.
Internationally, Alice Weidel's ascent has drawn a surprising champion, Elon Musk. The billionaire entrepreneur stunned observers by endorsing the AfD on X, calling it Germany's last chance for salvation. While Musk's sway over German voters remains uncertain, his global megaphone has thrust Weidel's far-right vision into the spotlight, unsettling the nation's political elite and amplifying a once fringe voice. The White House echoes this chorus in an even bolder tone. At the recent Munich Security Conference, the U.S. Vice President JD Vance raised eyebrows by praising the AfD's rise as a bold new voice for Germany's future. This transatlantic nod, whether strategic or provocative, sent shockwaves through Berlin, ruffling feathers among a leadership wary of foreign meddling in an already tense election. For some, it's a sign of shifting alliances. For others, a diplomatic misstep.
The Vice President of the United States has spoken out so clearly. He has stood up for freedom of speech, and he has acknowledged that you can't build a firewall to exclude millions of voters in the first place. He made it clear that we have to talk to each other.
But I really do think the strength of those alliances is going to depend on whether we take our societies in the right direction. Think about this. Germany's entire defense is subsidized by the American taxpayer. There are thousands upon thousands of American troops in Germany today. Do you think that the American taxpayer is going to stand for that if you get thrown in jail in Germany for posting a mean tweet? Of course they're not, right? So the point that I try to make to our European friends, and I think that they're our friends, I believe that, I know President Trump does, is that friendship is based on shared values. You do not have shared values if you're jailing people for saying we should close down our border. You don't have shared values if you cancel elections because you don't like the result, and that happened in Romania. You do not have shared values if you're so afraid of your own people that you silence them and shut them up. So let's have shared values. Let's defend democracy. Let's have free expression, not just in the United States, but all over the Western world. That is the path to strong alliances in Europe.
I have already mentioned the American tariffs that are threatening us, possibly on steel and aluminum. If the U.S. leaves us no other choice, then the European Union will react united. And we're seeing the consequences of Donald Trump being elected U.S. president again, every day now and almost every hour. I don't want to talk about America for long, maybe 2 or 3 sentences, but this is not the America that I used to know 40 years ago. Something is changing at the moment, and we may only really understand how profound these changes will be in a few years' time.
With Germany on a knife's edge, this election could rewrite its political DNA. Win or lose, Weidel's AfD has already redrawn the battle lines, forcing mainstream parties to confront a surging far-right tide. The question now looms large. Can Germany's storied political firewall hold firm, or is it cracking under the weight of a restless electorate?